You're listening to the Shit You Can't Make Up podcast, a conversation with friends, hosted by Marisol Sanchez.
Hey guys, thanks for tuning in. This week, your favorite co-host, Beth, is back.
Hey Marisol.
Thank you.
I know you only invited me over because you have like 20 boxes of like new sound equipment that you needed me to unpack and put together.
Thank you. If we sound better, it's because we've actually invested in some equipment.
I know.
Which we still haven't figured out.
I know. You should take a picture of what this table looks like, and so we guys have all this stuff, and like we're down to the bare bones because we can't figure out how to work 90% of it. But it's. I think it's going to sound better.
Yeah, and I mean, compared to where I started, almost 2 years ago, it should sound much, much better. I've learned a lot in the last year. Probably not as quickly as people who listen to this would have liked. But I have learned a lot about sound quality. What I haven't figured out yet is a complaint I've gotten is when people plug it into their cars. Mm-hmm. It's still...
well, hopefully the two mics will fix that.
Yeah, and
Podcasting number one, turn off your computer dings. Yeah. Well, I listen to a lot of podcasts that, well, not a lot, but if you ever listen to a podcast that sort of started small and got bigger and bigger and bigger, you definitely go with them on their podcasting journey from like sitting at the dining room table to like having it edited professionally and all that kind of stuff, which is, I think that's really fun to listen to. Hopefully that will be how your podcast is.
I hope so. We found a really cool producer in town who's going to be working on the podcast. And, what we were talking about before we turned on the mics was that I feel that first it was the podcast and then it was the blog, and now like my passion's in the blog. And I'm sort of not grounded with what I want to do with the podcast, but I do get a lot of feedback. And I've shared with you, people enjoy our chemistry, our conversations. They like to listen to us. I don't know why, because it's I'm not saying that in a mean way, but I'm not sure what it is. But then again, I don't go back and listen to the podcast.
Yeah, once you get done, you're just done. I think there's like your children, each of one of them needs different attention at different times, and so you sort of waffle back and forth between the podcast and the blog and how they're going and, what needs more attention and what's easier and more fun and all of that.
Yeah, and I think I'd like a clear format, and I've just waffled.
I know, let's not talk about the format anymore because
we're done.
Whatever we say will be different next week.
But thank you for hanging in with us this long. We do appreciate it, and I appreciate it very much that you guys read or listen to us. So this week I blogged. I just posted it last night. It's 420. So I just want to throw out a shout out to anyone who celebrates 420. I wish I could celebrate with you. Fortunately, I cannot because we don't live in a state that's legal. But happy 420. But the blog, I posted it up yesterday, and it's called The Victim Card. And so we thought we would do a little podcast
about it.
Delve a little bit more into it. Your hair looks really good, by the way.
Thank you. I just had it did yesterday, so it always looks good for a couple of days, and then it's back to the crazy mess that it always is, but thanks.
So you read the blog?
I did read the blog, and I have heard that story maybe once before, but like in that context, and I think it was, it's a really sad story for a little girl. I mean, were there lots of incidents like that, or does that one just stick out in your mind the most?
You mean the beating?
Well, the beating, and also the sort of the I'm the girl whose brother died, I'm the girl who has a hard life, and like getting a lot of attention from that.
I don't know about the latter. I haven't thought too much about, I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I got beat a lot. that's that was not that's an easy one to answer. The victim card or the victim mindset. I mean, when I was thinking about this memory, it resonated with me just that I think that was probably, if not the moment, definitely a big moment in my childlike brain that I was like, oh, I'm getting attention.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't process at that age.
Right.
You don't sit there and contemplate.
This is how this is screwing me up for future life.
Yeah. But what I wanted to write about, or why I wanted to write about it, is because I think that it was a big breakthrough moment for me. I have a few of those throughout the years, and when I was doing talk therapy, I loved talk therapy. I had a great therapist, but we got to a point in my therapy where I kind of knew as much as I was going to know about my life. I knew what happened in the past. I was done talking about it. Let it go, all that shit. And like I say in the blog, consciously, my day-to-day right now, life is great. Beautiful home, beautiful kids, work, everything's great. I really, have a lot to be grateful for. But subconsciously, I still have those patterns where I make horrible choices with men. Horrible choices with men. Holidays, I get depressed. Things that if I'm in the present moment, which is a big part of the type of therapy that I was doing, I shouldn't be triggered.
Mm-hmm.
I know what to do, but I felt like at the end of that therapy, I needed more. There was something more to be done, to work through. And that's when I started doing a little research, and it was, okay, the subconscious, which is, it's almost I'm stuck on words right now. All right, let me try to explain it this way. People say stay present to be happy, and I think that is true. You can only find happiness right now, not in the future, not in the past. Got that. Message received. But I think it's a disservice to say just let it go. Let your, all that shit, it's in the past.
Mm-hmm.
That would be great.
I don't think that's really even possible.
Well, yeah, it would be great, but
in all circumstances,
yeah.
Like, I mean, you can't let everything that's ever happened to you just go and live right now.
Very Pollyanna kind of attitude. Mm-hmm. I think if you really want to heal and you really want to break those patterns, you got to go back and you got to try to figure out where that moment, that perspective came in that became part of your subconscious. So that's what I've been working on this year. And so that memory, the memory that I wrote about, which was the return when I came back home after my brother's funeral at 9, and a teacher was kind to me afterwards. Yeah. And that was a moment where I think I became a victim. Mm-hmm. Regardless of being a victim because of my mother's issues and stuff, but where I became a victim, where I chose that victim mentality, where I'm like, oh, this feels good. Someone's being nice to me.
Attention. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think I've played that out even up till recently, even through my divorce and everything, where it's like, oh, I'm a victim. Reality is I'm not really a victim. In today, in the present, in the moment.
You're just, well, and another thing, because I was going to say I love the stories about your mom, and that's sort of a weird thing to say because a lot of them are dark and not very happy, but like I always am drawn to like people's real life stories, and memoir is my favorite genre of book, and so I remember a lot of people's stories, and I was wondering if you ever thought about this when you were thinking about your victim card. A lot of the stories about your mom sort of revolve around her being a victim. I remember you talking about like how she passed out one time and then like opened her eyes to see if anybody was looking.
Yeah. Should I tell the story?
Sure, I think you should. It's a good story. It's one of a million good stories about your mom. But
so this is my memory of my grandmother's funeral. So my mother is one of 12, and my aunt was at my grandmother's casket. And so this is a big Latin Catholic family. Emotions are up
high. They're running rampant.
So the matriarch, the mother of all these, children and grandchildren, died. She's in the casket. She's like 96 years old. So, and many of the grandchildren, including 2 of my brothers, raised by her. So my aunt, who was older than my mother, the new matriarch of the family, you could say, strong woman. All the women in my family, incredibly strong. And she started crying. I remember that impacted me because I never saw her cry. She was always just tough and strong. And and it was a genuine, her mother's dead, crying at the casket. I'm sitting next to my mom. So I'm a teenager, so this is a pretty valid memory. Like some of the ones in...
You're like, is it really how it happened? Yeah.
This one, I have the scar to prove it, actually. You can't see it through my veins right now, but so my mom looks at my aunt, and then she starts to cry, just a little bit louder,
a little bit more upset.
Then my aunt starts to cry, just a little bit louder than that. Then my mom faints, and that's how I got the scar. It's right here. It's pretty faint now, but she faints, and my hand catches her against the wall, so I scrape my hand, and she's on the floor. So everyone runs to my mom, and oh my God, my mom. And at this point, my mom was not really honest with what her ailments were. She had psychological diabetes at the point, and I say that in air quotes, literally. But she said she had all these ailments, so you didn't know what was real, what was not. And my cousins, everyone's like, oh my God, and they call an ambulance. And my mom peeks up, and I noticed this, but apparently I'm the only one that noticed this, peeks out to and looks around, and then closes her eyes back. The ambulance goes, she misses the funeral. And I just remember being really angry because I thought she was faking it. And I thought she was just, trying to suck the attention onto her, which is exactly what she did.
Right.
And, it's just funny because to me, that's how I've explained a lot of her behavior towards me. Mm-hmm. Being her only daughter, I think she's a woman that always wanted attention. She was beautiful, and I think I'm making this up. I don't know if this is to be true, but this is my theory, is that my mother walked into a room, she garnered all the attention from her sisters, from her siblings and everything. And when I came into the world, I think that just fucked up her world order. I'm a female. And, every major event, excuse me, in my life, from high school graduation to my wedding, my mother would ruin it. Mm-hmm. Which ties into a lot of why I don't like events that I'm at. Like my birthday. You've seen, my meltdowns around my birthday time. I don't like it.
Well, I guess because you're waiting for the other shoe to drop, like what crazy thing is going to happen to ruin it.
Yeah. I've gotten better. I mean, that's stuff I've worked through and gotten much better. And that happened through talk therapy. But that's my mom.
So I was thinking, maybe now that you tell the story, I don't remember it. It's like she played the victim. Like I'm so distraught that I'm actually going to faint at my mother's funeral and be the victim to garner all the attention, the good attention that I'm not getting because my crazy ass sister is crying the loudest, and now she's the matriarch. So how can I divert that attention back to me? I'll faint. Yes. I'll show her.
Yes. And it's in that story alone, there's so many different dynamics. Because the aunt, the new matriarch, her and her daughters took care of my grandmother. Like my mother was in Miami, that family was in New York. They were the day in, day out taking care of a 96-year-old grandmother. The other aunt who was single and deaf and had her own issues. This family unit was the one taking care of it. My mother was in Miami. I'm not saying she was a bad daughter or anything.
Right, but she just wasn't there for the day-to-day.
She wasn't there for the day-to-day, but she's the one that everyone ran to. So, that's my mom.
So how do you think that like victim card, how you call it, how do you think it like shows up today? Like, do you think it shows up just in your romantic relationships, or do you think it shows up like in your friendship relationships or your relationships with your children?
Yes, no, no. Like I've actually been thinking about my friendships and my relationship with my children. But like my friendships are awesome. My circle of friends, solid. That's a wonderful thing when you start to have friends over 10 years of experience. The kids are wonderful. They're, my saviors as far as I'm concerned. It plays out in my personal relationships, and I think it played out in my divorce. In the first few years, like I just constantly felt like I was a victim of the circumstances of my divorce. And now I'm looking back at that, I'm like, if I had the wisdom I had today, back 4 or 5 years ago, how would I have done things differently? But I don't think I play it. I don't think I play the victim card now. With the exception for my children, it is, unfortunately for them, that when they have their problems, which, every kid has problems, I'm probably not as sympathetic as they would like me to be. Because I always go back to like, okay, really? Let's revisit what was happening to me at your age.
Right. And their problems are all first world problems that are not really problems most of the time. And so,
but I do feel...
We can't say that.
I feel it's unfair to them. Like, we've done therapy together, the children and I, post the divorce, and that's come up a few times where I'm like, I want to feel badly that, I got upset with you because I told you to clean your room for the 100th time and you didn't. But, at the end of the day, I didn't beat you viciously. And, tell you I wish I had aborted you. So there's that, it plays out there. But I don't think I play it. I remember, I can't remember the book we read, but there was a book club a few years ago where one of my close friends was talking about the character in the book about, constantly being the victim and, just let go of your childhood stuff. And I remember thinking, like, was she referring to me in some, veiled way? But I don't think now, I don't think now I play it.
Right.
I still think it's part of my subconscious. I put myself in situations with men where I'm going to feel victimized by their treatment of me. God, I cannot wait to break that pattern. Cannot wait. I think I'm really close because I just am not going out with anyone.
It's hard not to be victimized when you don't have someone to victimize you.
Yeah. But no, I don't think I play it anymore. But I can look back into my 20s. I can look back into my 30s. And yeah, that's something I did.
Well, I don't think it would be a card like you play, like you consciously say, oh, this is how I'm going to manipulate this situation. I'm going to be a victim. But like just, thinking about your young self, like sort of garnering attention for being a victim of, your circumstances.
Like, of XYZ.
Yeah, of XYZ, of several things, like how it sort of shows up.
Like, boo-hoo, I didn't pass college algebra because my teacher in, the ghetto was sucked. Like, there's always something that I could go back to. And, woe is me.
Yeah.
I have a litany of woe is me stories, which now I've come to love. I love all those, including the one my mom fading at my grandmother's funeral, because it's made me who I am today. So, and that's pretty cool. But, yeah, no. I don't know. And the reason I shared that story, because it's been sitting with me for a few weeks now, was because people have been reaching out to me on other posts. The blog is weird because first of all, I've heard this more than once that people like to binge read it.
Okay, yeah.
Excuse me. So sometimes I'll get an email about something I posted, many weeks ago or months ago that I really...
You're like, what?
But I love the connection, not the attention. It's not the, it's the something I wrote connected with them, and they didn't feel alone, or they didn't feel. The only way I can describe it is connection, and I love that. Like that's like my new high. Like every time I get one of those, or I get a Facebook message, or I get any validation for just putting the shit out there, makes me happy.
Right.
Yeah, but I try to balance it out. Like I'm trying not to do like deep, let me go into my vast psyche and figure out some shit. Like last week I did one on Tinder, which was, light and fluffy, I think. If I remember correctly, I don't know. I really need to...
It's all in the eye of the reader, I think, of like what's lighter and darker.
I know.
Than, how you intend it. It's always read differently by different people, depending on their point of view. But
that's what I kind of feel like when I started all this. I didn't know what I was doing. And I still, as we discussed earlier on this podcast.
Today, this very moment, we still don't know what we're doing.
I just knew I loved podcasts, and I knew, I had a lot of stories. And somehow I wanted to share them. But writing alone, regardless if anything ever happens with it or not, has just been incredibly healing. Like I hear that a lot when people are like, it sounds like you're healing. It sounds like you've forgiven your mother. It sounds like, and it's true. And these two help do that.
Well, I've read a lot of things about writing just in general, even if you never have an intended audience, is supposed to be a great way, like to get up and write for 30 minutes, just journaling or writing about what you're thinking about in the morning is sort of, it's supposed to be very therapeutic. Yeah,
it has been. I can say, honestly, for me, in the podcast too, the old podcast that I did by myself in the beginning, some of those are, very revealing of shit that I'm surprised I put it out there and I forget. Like, I'm not kidding when I say, this to me.
You're not taking it down, but you're like, that was interesting.
Like, wow, interesting. What was going on that week?
So what else is going on in your life besides blogging and podcasting?
Well, I got TV back.
Yes.
In case you're just tuning in, I gave up TV for Lent, and no, I'm not Catholic. I just torture myself.
Just saying. But you thought it was a good exercise, even though it was hard. So what's your favorite thing that you've binge watched?
It wasn't that hard, actually. It like 2 or 3 days into it, it was the new normal. Well, I caught up on Grey's Anatomy. And
very important.
Very important.
Yes.
And what else did I? Girls.
Okay.
Do the finale of Girls. And then I moved over to Netflix, and last night started, I don't know what the name of it is. It's the one everyone's watching, 13.
13 Reasons Why.
13 Reasons Why. And it was good to, stop watching TV because I was binge watching so much. Because like last night I watched 2 episodes. I was tired, and I shut it off and I went to bed. The me before this whole exercise I would have watched it all night long. I would have wanted to know,
how it ends.
Yeah. And then I'm like, you know what? It's going to be there tomorrow.
Exactly.
Go get some sleep. So that's going on there. And basically that's it. I'm writing a lot, and I'm going back to do some consulting starting next month, and what I do for income. So I'm gearing up for that. And yay! So please support this podcast and vlog so I can monetize this and not do that. So what's going on with you?
Oh gosh, I don't know. I think it's getting ready to be like the beginning of the crazy season. Like May is always really crazy with school and kids and all of that. And my son, he's just finishing his first year at Chapel Hill.
Shocking.
So I just made a reservation to drive up. My husband and I are going to drive up and spend the night, take him out to dinner, and then pack his stuff up the next day and move him home. And that will be his first year. And I'm having a really hard time. It goes fast. It goes really fast.
Yeah. It was our freshman year in high school, and I'm like, wow.
Yeah. I think every year just gets faster and faster and faster. So,
which makes me panic.
Yeah.
Because I think I've been very Pollyanna about, like, my kid's future, like, what, and now the idea that 3 years from now they're both, and so first of all, I'm glad I had the third child.
Yeah.
Because the idea that my twins are...
Yeah. You wouldn't have one left after they're grown and flown kind of thing.
That's starting to be an issue for me, just the thought of it.
Well, like their freshman year, don't you think like it just went by the fastest ever in a year? I think, because when they're like in kindergarten and first grade and all of that, like every day is really long and every week is long. And it's like a lifetime between like spring break and the end of school. And now it just like goes like gangbusters and it just, every year just gets faster and faster, and you're like, whoa, it's summer again, and so...
Yeah, my baby is 11, and she's starting middle school next year, and, I was thinking about her because she acts very young for her age, and I'm so happy with that. Like yesterday, I don't know if you know, the Starbucks unicorn frappuccino came out, which, I called it cancer, and I called cancer.
How many chemicals can you put into one cup of coffee? Yeah.
But I just, as soon as I saw it, I was like, oh, I know what we're doing after school, because I'm like celebrating every like moment. I feel like I'm on a treadmill that I don't want to be on. It's just going faster and faster and faster.
So I'm guessing, Lola, both of our oldest two children, your twins, and my son and my daughter who's a junior, Avery, they both went to a small private school, and where things were pretty sheltered, and where the worst thing that would happen all year would be like boys peeing on the walls in the bathroom
or kicking each other in the balls, which is my favorite.
But so my youngest is a 7th grader in a local middle school, and so I was like unprepared for how much of goes on in middle school and like a big public middle school today. It really is exactly like it is in like the television shows. And I was joking with my husband because, today is National Weed Day, where I was like, I wonder if they're going to have a assembly at Whitley's Middle School, because weed is like it just is woven everywhere. Like kids bring weed to school, they smoke weed in the bathroom, they talk about weed. I'm like, you're 13 and it's crazy.
My kids, for disclaimer, huge proponent of legalizing pot, but I'm also a huge proponent that children with developing brains should not smoke pot, just so we're clear. But my kids cross the street from their high school to where I pick them up in the parking lot. Most of the kids actually do that. And you could just see the smoke. And like, I'm very familiar with the smell, so I'm like, wait, what? It's just so, and in middle school, it's so prevalent.
Yes, it is, shockingly so.
More so than, I don't know if, I feel like I'm just an old mom that's doing, but I feel like it much more than I ever remembered.
Yeah.
Certainly when I was in high school, it wasn't that prevalent. Really, or at least not it really wasn't. I mean, I'm sure people smoked it, but it just...
Well, in Whitley's Middle School, like, people are always getting suspended for bringing weed to school. And they, and it's not usually her close group of friends, but it's only one removed. Like, it's a friend of a friend who brings a backpack to school that has weed, prescription pills, and a lighter. Yeah. And, or no, I'm sorry, no weed in this. I'm guessing the weed was somewhere else because... for the lighter. It was prescription pills, a lighter, and vodka.
Yeah.
And he gets suspended, but it's just really close to home, and we were talking about it, and I'm like, well, I'm guessing, we were like, well, what did her parents say and do? And I said, well, they probably were not very happy about the fact that she took her parents' prescription pills to school to theoretically sell. And my daughter's like, well, no, it wasn't her parents' pills. And so I'm like, okay, whose pills were it? Oh, it's another friend's sister's boyfriend's a drug dealer. And that's where I'm like, you are 13 years old. Like, yeah. I think at 13 I might have still played with a Barbie doll or two. Like, I don't really remember, but I definitely was not thinking about that.
No, I was probably thinking about boys, but I was not thinking about
7th grade. Yeah.
Yeah, I was not. And no, the drugs just weren't around. This is where, when I complain about having twins sometimes, I am grateful for, because the twins who are 9th grade, specifically my son, I feel is like the world's biggest narc. And I can always tell when they're coming to the car. Like I can always tell.
If he has something to report, he's the informer.
Yes, I can tell by the text. Like I got a text this week, or I think it's this week. It's like, Mommy, I can't. When he says Mommy, first of all, I'm like, oh. He's like, I can't wait. I have a funny story to tell you. Those funny stories generally is something that his twin sister is going to be, really pissed off about.
Right. It's going to make fun of her. Yeah.
Yes. Or get her in trouble.
Yeah.
So I'm grateful, because I think his twin sister Heather, her group is it's that one removed.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm talking like neighbors.
Right.
But I know, and I've known that I'm not judging them, and it is what it is, but it's like, I'm always surprised when I hear this kid did this or this guy. Like, I know these kids. They were in my home.
Yeah.
What's going on?
Yeah.
But I'm grateful. My kids recently said something to me, the twins, and they're like, we're such homebodies. And they are. And I'm like, and I love that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And this is the house that people tend to come to, and I'm like, hey, that's why I still have this house.
Right, exactly. For your you to hang out here and your friends to come here. And I've had the similar experience, and sometimes it's tiring a little bit, but not really. It's always just you just want them. It's nice to know where they all are. And my son even said once, he's like, Mom, when he was getting ready to go to college, he's like, you haven't been the mom that's like had to have their, child leave and spend the night out and not know, because they've all those kids have been spending the night at our house. So we've always known they're always where we know that they are. But behind every one of those boys that's hanging out at our house is a mom who is just assuming that their child is at our house, but doesn't really know. And so
now I'm grateful for that.
Part of that.
I'd remind myself, like right now, as I'm getting the backyard ready and the pool, up and running for the summer, I have it I do it, not for me, because I don't even like hang out there.
Yeah.
But I have it because I like that the kids come here. It does get expensive when you're feeding a lot of teenagers at your home, because I always feel like you have to, get food and drink. So I noticed my bill go up exponentially.
Yeah, feeding a lot, and it only gets, I think, worse. I have to get my backyard and pool ready as well, because my junior daughter told me last week that the whole prom group is coming to our house for photos. So, yeah. And then somehow I volunteered to cater their dinner at our house too.
I'm surprised you're not cooking it.
The funny thing about me, this is my strong suit. So it's only 18 of them. I'm like,
you can say that.
I know. I realize how ridiculous that sounds, but I'm like, it's only 18 of them. I'll make a couple of different kinds of pasta and a big salad and just be done with it.
And this is why you have to have your own blog and your own podcast, so people that can relate to that can share that with you. Because for me to feed 18 people, I would have a heart attack if I had to cook it. I could totally order it, no problem. Paper plates, I'm in. to do what you do.
Anyway,
No,
I'm going to have it catered by, I think Taste of Italy or something like that.
You were good. We were talking about you because Easter just passed, and in the, when the twins were younger, we'd always go to your mother and father's for Easter, and so we were talking about that. So you are the hostess with the mostest. I've always said that.
Well, I some people that really stresses them out, and I get that, or just cooking in general they don't like. But that's just something I like to do. I don't like the drudgery of Tuesday night cooking, but a dinner party or 18 prom goers, I'm all in.
I order pizza. That's my strong suit. I got a platter of shrimp the other day and was staring at the teenagers. Here you go.
Oh my gosh. So,
well, thank you.
Thank you for having me on this pretty day. It's been fun catching up.
Yeah, and hopefully this sounds so much better with our new mics.
Since you won't listen to it before you post it, we'll never know.
Thank you for listening. Please, 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 please share. I'm not promoting any of this, so the only way it really people hear about it is by sharing it. So if you find any value in this podcast or blog, go ahead and follow us. Do you want to tell them who your Instagram or Facebook or anything?
Oh, well, gosh. My Facebook is Beth Johnson Lennon, and Instagram is Beth_Lennon. And Pinterest is Beth Lennon.
Mm-hmm. I've got Marisol's podcast, plural, both Marisol and podcast be plural. On Instagram. My Instagram's kind of getting more which is interesting for me. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, you can follow there. You can follow on Marisol's podcast and blog on Facebook. And you can always reach me at marisolspodcast@gmail.com, which I always, always love hearing from people. Not maybe if you have something to complain about.
No criticism, please.
But I am getting better at just reading the first few lines and then going, oh, delete.
Okay, good. Yeah,
because there's no point. Yeah. So, all right, thanks again. See you soon. Bye.